Hey, good day, guys. What's up? David Morgan here. We have a conversation in the shed with Kate Flannery from The Office. I had such a great time talking to her. I actually have worked with her a little bit musically. And what I experienced from her in this show called See Jane Sing on and off the stage was an extremely talented, soulful, gifted, skilled, really warm and lovely human being. And I couldn't wait to talk to her. I was excited when she said that she would do the conversation. And here it is. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for all that good stuff and enjoy. Leave comments too. Me and Kate. One of the goals of this series is to help younger artists or up and coming artists to be able to realize their potential. That's one of I love doing that. I love helping, kind of. And um, so I wanted to have you on because honestly, the first impression that I had of you was actually I walked into Joe's Pub and you guys were already rehearsing. You guys knew I was going to be late. I told you I was going to be late. I walk in, I set up, and all three of you and Jane and Tim's rear ends were right in my face for like for a good hour. And I hadn't seen The Office. I didn't really know a lot about you, and my kids had seen it, but I hadn't. And my first impression of you was, oh my God, here is the incredible singer, like nailing every note, and so funny and so warm, and just so kind. And you made me feel so welcome. I'm walking into this situation like, I only know Dave, the bass player, and I've never played this music before, and blah, blah, blah. And you just really put me at ease and made me feel so comfortable. And I felt like, I want to find out, you're such a multi-layered performer and artist. And I want to find out from you where that came from. Like what happened to you? Where did you study? What happened as a kid? So I guess my first question is like your upbringing and your childhood. What were some ingredients in that kind of gumbo that helped you be able to do what you do so well?
Right. Well, I'm one of seven kids, and we had a piano, and I was so attracted to that piano. I had two older sisters that played. My one sister, Nancy, who was 6 years older than me, she played all the time, and I would try to copy what she played. I would play by ear, and I would
Mm,
try to copy what I heard on TV. I remember like the first thing that I played that was legible that everyone noticed was "Love Is a Many Splendored Thing." It was
mm.
a fantastic movie from the 50s with the theme song. But it was
With a
like,
great melody, with such a
right,
memorable melody that it's.
yeah, it was very specific. And they were like, oh my God, what's happening? Because my other sisters don't play by ear. They're very
Uh,
technical. Well, my sister Nancy was very technical. And so anyway, so I was completely obsessed. And also, we had a lot of music. Being the youngest of seven, all my siblings, I have five sisters and a brother, they were all into different music. So I devoured everything that was brought, like everything I could hear. I loved it. I absorbed it. My dad owned a bar, Flannery's Tavern. I know you're
mm.
shocked. Irish tavern
That is
in
shocking. That is shocking.
Philadelphia. He had a jukebox and he would bring home the 45. So we always had older hits, but loved them. And we'd go to the bar and I'd be go-go dancing in the window.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, when it was closed. When it was closed. Yeah, we were there on
Well,
Sunday. Uh, there was child protection services. There's no
but
need for that. I was fully clothed. It was fine. It was all right.
it was way too early for those things back then,
Right.
back in
But
those days.
I will tell you, my mom found me the most perfect piano teacher for me, Mrs. Lyons. Greta Lyons was a jazz pianist who was teaching. She she was still playing, but she was just playing for her husband, who was an Irish tenor. But she
Mm,
would take time every session the last 10 minutes, she would let me play what I was hearing that week. And as a kid, that was, I mean, it was like she was validating me. She was encouraging me. She was bridging the gap between what I was learning and what I wanted to learn or who I wanted to be.
It's
I
so
mean,
huge. It's
huge.
so huge.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many, and I love that she was like that. I mean, I love teachers like that
Yeah.
because exactly for that reason, they validate you. It's if you're not invested emotionally in what you're doing on whatever instrument you're playing, it's so boring to
Yeah.
get Bach and Beethoven and Mozart. Not that there's anything wrong with that music, but if that's all you know, within a couple years, everyone is like, I'm out. I'm out of this.
Yeah.
Unless your
Yeah.
parents force you to do it.
Right. Or unless you're amazing right away, or yeah, that's, it's like they're very, yeah, it was so great. And I felt like then she actually eventually became my accompanist. I started singing. I sang like in a club when I was 15. I somehow got this gig, and I kind of had no business doing it, but I was like, I started to study voice at 13 because I was obsessed with the musical Annie, and I felt like I
Mm.
really couldn't sing. And my mother said, "You already have piano and tap. Your sister only has swimming, so that's it. If you want to study voice, then you got to either give up something or figure it out yourself." So I got a job where my older sisters worked at a Chinese restaurant. I worked 1 day a week and I paid for my voice lessons.
Oh
I
my
studied
God.
with one of the coaches from that taught some of the girls from Annie because they were all around my age. They were a little bit older than me. But I was like, and I read about it in the paper, I was like, I could take 2 buses. Oh, I could totally get there. It wasn't that far. And I found this woman, and the only good thing about her was that she got me memorizing songs and thinking about, but she was all about volume and growing, like
The
literally,
sun will come out.
literally, or like I remember singing like Crystal Gale's like "Don't It Make My Brown Eyes Blue," nothing like an eighth grader nailing that tune. Jesus God. It was like everything, yeah.
Oh God.
And then she would brag about like, well, Mary Kay Lombardi can sing I Am a Woman in Love in the original key, and she's 8. I'm like, okay, I'm out. It was
Super
interesting.
pretentious.
It felt like it was a good opportunity for me to kind of see, just to kind of get the motor of performing and getting, so I did go to her for a couple years. She was not a magician or like, but she was more like the muscle, like get this muscle going. And I also,
Mm.
though I was very aware that if I wanted that, I was going to have to work really hard. Because my first performance at that club, I was so hard on myself afterwards. They gave us
Mm.
like a tape. I still have the cassette tape for my tape recorder of that performance. And I was telling jokes in between. I didn't even plan them before. I just kind of had this thing. And I realized like I kind of was a natural at sort of being in front of, an audience. I'd already done like my first high school play, and then that was the summer in between
Mm.
freshman and sophomore year. But it was an interesting opportunity for me.
It's so important, those moments where where we're about to go off the rails or in a different direction, someone who's older who we actually look up to, our mentors. They're so important
Yeah,
in those key moments to have those those mentors is
it's so
huge
true.
because it's such an insecure feeling
Yeah, and if
naturally
you're
to
not
be
good right
perform.
away, you feel like there's something wrong. And the thing is that what I've learned as I get older is that the kids who had tremendous talent at a young age didn't have the drive to work at it because they felt like they didn't have to. So as they got
Yes.
older and your body changes and your instrument changes and things change, you don't give yourself a chance. If you don't give yourself a chance to reinvent or grow or, really figure out another phase of your talent, like it just kind of stays the same or goes away. You know,
There are those two worlds that have to meet. There's the creative juices that we have. There's the imagination and the spark of wanting to the motivation and the inspiration coupled with it's we got to have a way to deliver it. And there are two different worlds that have to merge. And it sounds like for you, you had that inspiration from such an early age, but then instead of sitting on it, you acted on it. You were scrappy. You got that job to pay for the lessons, and you made it. You did what you could in every way that you possibly could to make it happen.
Right. And actually, by the time I was a senior in high school, I got my first job at a dinner theater in a show that ran for 4 months, and I had to
Oh
beg
my
my mother to
God.
do it. Because I used to go to the dinner theater auditions in Philly. There were two really big ones that I could get to. I could either bribe one of my sisters to drive me, or I could take a bus. And I got the didn't get any of it, but it was like just the process of it. A couple times a year, I'd be there for their, it was just, and I did my high school musicals. I did a bunch of shows, and I got a solo my freshman year, and then had a pretty big part my junior year. So by senior year, I was like, oh my, I felt like I had, some confidence. Like because at first I kind of felt like I had no business doing it.
Mm. Did you get more of the lead roles? Did you get a more featured roles as you went through high school and got like to
I
junior and
did.
senior
I
year? Yeah.
I did. Yeah. I did. Although I felt like I was still the funny one. I wanted to be the ingenue, and they were like, no, no. No, 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 no. No,
You need
yeah.
to. So they kind of pushed you into the funny parts,
Well, yeah, I mean, I think,
the
yeah, it
funny
was,
roles.
yes. I should say it was just one my junior year. That was like the one time that I was like, I really want, but I realized, like, and even the dramas that we did, like I was playing more the character roles, not the ingenues.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember like being disappointed, but also realizing like, no, 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 don't, don't suffer. Like there's an opportunity here.
And musical theater was what you were into at the time. That was your big
Yes.
muse and inspiration. Now, how does that with you know one of the things I thought about you and just about people in general, and how artists are so different from normal regular old people, which I don't really believe in, but you know what I mean,
I do.
is that most people spend a lot of their energy and time wanting to look and seem together, put together, and on the straight and narrow, and they've got their stuff together. And as artists, we tend. Um, I mean, I say, especially in your career, in your case, being really comfortable looking foolish and looking like the odd person. Where did that come? How did you get that kind of confidence to be able to run across the stage and act like a nut and sing out of key and on purpose and just look like someone who to play that type of funny person?
I
Where did
think
that come from?
it was incremental in getting the confidence for sure. But I was such a big fan of old movies and funny
Mm,
people like Carol Burnett. And Carol Burnett was fearless. She was such a
genius.
great role model.
Oh, and all of the great comedians and singers and musicians were on that show. I mean,
Absolutely
what a
everybody.
plethora! What
And
what
I
an
was a
incredible
huge,
gold mine!
it's so true. I was a huge fan of Ethel Merman when I was little. I was
Oh
a big
God!
fan
Ah,
of.
ah.
So actually, when I was in seventh grade, my older sister, who's 14 years older than me, she got me tickets to see um, Ethel Merman with the Philadelphia Orchestra, and we went to see her in
Hmm.
the summer, like at an amphitheater. And I realized
Wow!
she's in her 70s, and she's singing with the orchestra, and she's so loud and so wonderful, and
And she
she's
was
just
probably hammered too,
maybe. And
most
she was in
likely.
her, I
I
think
don't
she was
know.
like 70 years old. I mean, you feel like, oh my God, like talk about, it's like that's who I want to be when I grow up. I want to be somebody that's performing with people, just continuing, 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 you know.
Let's talk a little bit. I want to get into improvisation. What about like as a comedian, as an actress, where how did you start to get into getting off of a script and into doing things in the moment on stage that no one is prepared for? It's such a living on the edge way to be that not I mean, musicians, it's one thing. You've got the blues, you have jazz, you have rock, and you have improvised music. As a stage performer, it's so much more rare to find someone who is truly who can improv like you do.
Well, let
How'd
me
that
just say,
happen?
I'm so lucky. When I was graduating from college from the University of the Arts in Philadelphia, my aunt thought that Second City would be a good fit for me. She lived in Chicago, and she sent me a ticket like a year later. So in that year I was in a comedy group in Philadelphia, and they didn't improvise so much. It was more scripted stuff, but it was an opportunity. We did play a few games. But so when I went to Second City, the very first time I went, I was like, "What?" Oh, I just felt like, "Oh my God, I this is fantastic, and I want every part of it." And the funny thing is, I figured
Mm.
out years later that there were so many people that I would know and work with that were in that room the first time I went, because Bonnie Hunt was getting married that day, so Jane Lynch was understudying for Bonnie Hunt, and
Wow.
then Bonnie came back to do the improv set in her wedding dress with her
Oh
bridal
my
party.
God. Oh my God. How
I
does
mean, it's so
that?
crazy.
That's crazy.
It was hilarious. So like there were all these people, Mike Myers was there. Like I'm thinking John Favreau was working that night. So was my friend Scott Robinson, who became my Lampshades comedy partner, my Dying Lounge act. I mean, and then Jill and Faith Soloway were there, who I did shows with at the Annoyance Theater. We did the show, The Really Brady Bunch. I mean, all these people that would be, I mean, who knew? But I will tell you, Second City was a great training place because they had a program that was a year and a half. You had to audition twice during it, one to get in initially, one to stay in it. And then
Mm.
I auditioned for the touring company and I got in, and I got asked because of my student show there to work in another theater company with a lot of other people that like Andy Richter, Jane Lynch was in that, and Jane was also
Hmm.
there were a lot of crossovers, but it
Yeah.
was definitely a validation. So yeah, I felt like uh, I got to study with Del Close, who was not a big fan of women, but I still learned a lot from him.
Mm. Not a big fan of women.
Yes, I mean there were so many great people around at the time who didn't, we didn't know that they were going to have great careers, like Stephen
Right.
Colbert and Steve
Oh
Carell
God. Wow.
and Neva Dallas and Amy Sedaris. I mean, so many people, and you know, but just to kind of there was this kind of cocoon of understanding in Chicago. They had the most supportive audiences. We could put up any shows. Like we used to write shows out of improv at Second City, but also at The Annoyance, and it was so freeing. And I remember I did a show at The Annoyance, and Lorne Michaels came. He was considering 4 out of the 6 of us for SNL. I
Hmm.
didn't end up getting it, but it was a great validation. It's like you're on the right track. And even though you're
Absolutely.
disappointed, it's like, thank God for therapy. I'm like, okay, there's another way to look at this. Like very few people are even considered because you don't go after them, they come after you. That's just how
Right.
it is.
Right. That's how it works. That's how
Yeah.
it
So,
works.
there's a sense of like, I felt like I was a big understudy too in Chicago. I understudied a ton of shows, and I got to perform in a lot of them for a while. But that was great training ground. You know, it was, I mean, it was fantastic. And every show didn't matter who was in, how many people were in the audience. It was still a big deal because people
Mm.
were watching. People did care.
And also, what you're creating with your peers at the time is so exciting. It's so much fun to do. It
It's
almost
so
doesn't.
true.
It almost doesn't matter. I mean, it's what you're describing is akin to when I went to school in New Orleans for jazz. We had our cocoon of like 20, 25 young musicians who we were in it together. We listened, we played, we practiced, we gave each other shit all the time. We ate, I mean, we did everything together, and we played the gigs where there was no one there, where there was 4 people there, where we got paid $10, where we got paid no dollars, and we just you really develop, you form a bond with those people that you don't. I feel like I don't have that kind of a bond with any. It's a different kind of bond,
Absolutely, absolutely.
you
And I
know.
know, I feel like we sort of have the old nod, when you see people like, hey, like you're forever, forever in that club. It's so interesting. And I remember one of the shows we did went off Broadway, and I was replacing somebody, even though I had done it all. I was replacing somebody in a part. I didn't get to go initially, but I did get to go for chunks of time to New York with
Hmm.
the show, which was great. So I had my friends there that I trusted, which was a
Mm.
great way to. It's a great way to do New York, and in a show you've done before, and that you're having fun. It's getting some buzz. And then the show ended up going to LA, and then I got to come out to LA for once to do that. And that was, so I felt like I was very taken care of through the
Uh,
process. And then I got to tour for a year with that show. And the last 5 months of that tour were on a like a rock and roll bus. We were literally
wow.
on the old Allman Brothers bus.
How much fun
Crazy.
is that?
Yeah, and we got
Crazy.
to play the Kennedy Center for like 7 weeks. I mean, there were things that would happen, but I felt like I was very much an ensemble person, and that was important
Mm,
to me. And I had given up some of my singing because I neglected to say I went to college for 2 years in Virginia at Shenandoah Conservatory, and then I transferred after 2 years to Philadelphia College of Performing Arts, which became the University of the Arts by my senior year. So
hmm.
I studied voice. I had to do juries. I had to do oral skills. I had to do all that music stuff, which was intense, and it
It's
wasn't
demanding.
exactly, yeah, it wasn't exactly my nature. But I will say I use all of those skills that I learned in those 2 years. I got to use them again once I started singing with Jane Lynch because we were singing way more complicated things and kind of as ourselves, not as characters or and I feel like what a gift to know that there's something that you've learned that can literally, even if it's dormant for a while and you haven't touched it, you can go back there and it's there.
It's like riding a bike.
Yeah.
It's like riding a
Yeah.
bike.
Yeah.
Music school is very, very, very demanding. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember having to practice when I was at Cal State Northridge in their classical music department and the jazz department at the same time. I had to practice like 4 hours of classical music a day just to keep my head almost above water. And that's
Wow.
not what I even wanted to do. So, but I
Right.
understand like there are things that we study from a technical standpoint that will always serve the creative aspect. And I don't know what kind of piano player I would be without Chopin and Brahms and learning that kind of technique. I wouldn't be able to technically do what I do, which
Right, and see, I think that's the thing too. They wouldn't let me belt when I went to college at first because they wanted me to build the other part of my voice, which is more of a soprano, and I was so like annoyed by that. But boy, what a gift! It's kind of like you're saying, like you normally
gift.
wouldn't be playing Chopin. That wouldn't be your choice, but what it gave you was the ability to physically have this thing that I mean, obviously we get a little rusty sometimes, but you can
Hmm.
get back there pretty quickly if you haven't done like
It
that.
doesn't take long. It takes like a week or two of
Totally.
exercises and playing every day, and you get you
It's
get you
crazy
get you
though.
get
And
there.
I don't know, I mean, did you feel like this isn't what I want to do? Why am I doing this? Why did
Yes.
we do this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
when I was at Northridge, it was this much classical and this much jazz. And
Right.
I wanted this much classical and this I wanted some classical. So when I went to New Orleans to study with Ellis Marsalis, I got the jazz and I still studied with the classical teacher. He wanted me to,
Yeah.
I wanted to. And um it
Dude.
served it oh man, it
So
served
great
it
though.
served me
No, it's so
well.
great because it's basically like it's making an investment in the process because I think as I get older, I've gotten more brave because I think I was so hard on myself. I had to be perfect. I had to be this. Oh, I can't do that.
Uh
I'm not as good as so and so. It's like as I'm getting older, I'm like, no, no, no. I might be able to do that. I might, so I'm getting a little braver.
can we talk about that for a minute? The idea of being perfect and the fear and the things that we all have to work through. I find that a lot of younger or up and coming artists, musicians have a tough time reaching their potential because of the psychological barriers that we put and let them stay. And now we all have them, but some people can push through them. Some people get feedback, like you were talking about earlier, from other mentors, and that gives us confidence to move forward. But for you, how have you and are there some examples of you feeling that disappointment, I'm not perfect, being hard on ourselves, or that fear, and how have you been able to push through that and
Yeah.
in order to continue to do what you do and even to further heights? to
Well, I
further
think
kind of.
right. I think some of the critic in my head was what kept me back from singing because I would when I was in Chicago and at Second City, we would do things that would make fun of musicals. So it
Hmm.
was okay
Hmm.
if we weren't perfect, and sometimes I was literally singing with people that like were off key, but that was kind of the joke was that they didn't know how
Right.
to sing. So it felt like, I, I felt comfortable there because I was like, I can, at least I can carry a tune, or I can figure, or like I'm being funny. So if it's not perfect, who cares?
Right.
And that is definitely a lane that I've lived in for a long time. But I will say that, um, when I got the office, I remember, some characters were asked to sing, and I knew that they saw my Comedy Lounge act, the showrunner, and he said, "Listen, I just want to tell you, Meredith doesn't sing. She just doesn't sing. When she sings, she doesn't sing." And I was
Right.
thinking, like, and part of me was like, "Oh, I get it. It's like Potsy on Happy Days. Like, how annoying. He's like a different character when he sings. Like, it's just weird when somebody,
Right.
unless, and they kind of gave that to other people. Like, other people could sing, but I couldn't." And then another part of me was like, maybe I'm not a good, maybe he doesn't think I'm a good enough singer. Like, I know it's
Mm.
crazy, but like, I literally was like, well, clearly I don't have the confidence. I'm not as good as, I couldn't
Mm.
do it on cue or whatever. There was a little bit of that in my head, which
Hmm.
is so stupid, but it's, it's kind
It's
of,
human nature.
yeah.
And it's
So
also the
we're gonna do
culture
like
that
a
we
little,
live in. We're so hard. People are so hard on ourselves. And I think that, getting A's in school and doing well on the Scantron tests and fitting in this educational box that we have to kind of fit in public school, that is a lot definitely puts on people who have a creative, um, more inspired, creative, thinking out of the box people. It's
yeah.
tough for us. I mean,
And I was going to say the other thing is that I'm super critical of actors who think they can do anything and they can't,
hmm
who are super arrogant, who put on cabaret shows and they're terrible.
yeah.
I'm super critical of them, and I didn't want to be them, and that's part of why I didn't sing for a while because I thought
Mm.
I don't want to be that. So,
Well,
luckily,
listen,
that voice has stopped because I feel like then you don't grow at all. It's like I may not be as good as I want to be, but I can still do this. I can still pursue this.
so I think you are being really, really humble and very modest, Kate. I mean,
I'm just being
you
honest. Like there was a self-criticism of me that was like,
yes,
I see that and it's so annoying and self-congratulatory and I don't want to do that. And that's
right.
part of why I created the lampshades. Like co-created, we basically make fun of lounge acts, but we make fun of people that take themselves seriously singing. And then I felt like that's the only thing I could do was make fun of it, like not really do it.
But when I mean,
That's all I created for myself. Yeah.
but going back to my first impression of you, I'm sitting there playing. I'm like, oh my God, these three singers are absolutely phenomenal. You guys, the parts in that show, the C. Jane Sing cabaret show, those parts are really, really intricate and really difficult. I mean, the harmonies are like they're all a lot of them are very close together and really tough to sing. And you guys, you nailed it with personality and vibe and pitch, and you had all the technique and all the creative everything. That's such a great. I enjoyed that so much. The nights we
Thank
did at
you so
Joe's
much.
Pub,
Thank you.
unbelievable.
Yeah,
You're a
absolutely. And
phenomenal singer. That's what I'm trying to.
oh, well, thank you so much.
I
And I
don't
have to
know. I don't know how many of you guys know how incredible of a singer Kate is. I mean, really,
you're so sweet.
phenomenal.
I will thank you. I appreciate
And I'm
that. I
not
will
just
take
not
that and
just being sweet. I don't say that.
I
I don't.
know.
You know,
I know. I
you're
really appreciate
serious.
that. I do. And I will tell you, okay, I have the vinyl of this. This is the Christmas album that we did
Okay.
shortly after working with you.
Yes.
And I'll tell you, this is the most difficult because we had to record it so quickly that we couldn't memorize it before we recorded. So we had to
Mm-hmm.
we literally recorded this like in September, October, November, and then December we were going out on tour with it. So we had to learn it to do it live. And it was such a task and it was so intense for me initially because we basically couldn't be together to learn it together. It's not like we had group
Right.
rehearsals. Like, so I remember like even, and not everything was written out because Tim is such a great vocal producer. Sometimes he would just go, do this, da, 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 and then I would sing that. And then I couldn't remember, I couldn't exactly hear it. And he'd do isolations, but I couldn't always figure whatever. So I hired somebody to help me, as a pianist, to help me just like plunk out the part. Like I need it plunked out even more. I need it written out even more. Like I need it. So, that's a process too, to know what you need to get there. And it's not everybody else's job to figure that out for you. It's your job to figure it out for you. And
Totally.
if you got to
What a
phone a friend, do it. Whatever you
what a
got to
great
do.
lesson. What a great lesson. Come in prepared no matter what the cost. I mean, nobody understands that Frank Sinatra, before he walked into that, there's the pictures of him in the studio with the microphone, whatever. He sat with a pianist every single day going just like you're talking about. It
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
doesn't, it is magic when it happens, but the
Sure.
pregame is not magic at all. It's really, really hard work. And
It's true.
it that's something that I want to try to help impart the people who are watching this to understand that there is a lot of labor and diligence and discipline that it takes to be able to play, perform, write, and do what we do. It's a lot of work.
It is. And also, it doesn't mean that you're not good if you need to work harder. It doesn't mean you're not, that you don't have potential. It doesn't mean you're not going to get there. It just means, you have to accept where you are and where you want to be and how to get from A to B. Because
Mhm.
nobody cares how you get there. You just got to get there. Don't be
And
hard
right
on yourself.
and that hard knocks and disappointments, you're not going to get you're not going to get all the gigs. You're gonna, I didn't get all the gigs. I certainly expected to get whatever, move to New York and become a big. That didn't happen. I was playing in Chinese restaurants and and making like $5 a night. I mean, for a while, and that's
Is that the
what.
same Chinese restaurant that I worked at when I was in eighth grade? Just
What right? Exactly.
and
Um,
so funny.
and
That's awesome. No, totally. But that's the thing, is like also understanding what the journey is and where the gifts are. And sometimes like there's people that don't necessarily work the same way that you do, and it's really your job. You're not going to change them. You're the one that has
mhm,
to change. I mean, seriously, and
adapt.
even if you're the number one on the call sheet, it's like you still have to figure out how to work with people, and sometimes it's very humbling. And
It
you
is.
know, personalities can be difficult, but when you're doing what you're doing is the most important, not who you are. That
Hmm.
the piece that you're singing, the piece that you're playing, whatever you're performing, that is the star in that moment. I mean, I think of that because otherwise, I've definitely had some comedic tricks to, kind of skating through a piece or something, like when I've done some live shows when I was younger. And at a point that doesn't fly anymore.
Hmm.
If you
Hmm.
want, if you if you want to be in a different place, and that's the thing. I feel like I've definitely been more hungry as an artist as I get older to really do things in a way that I didn't give myself permission to do before. That does
Hmm.
require that intense work.
And what you were saying, what I like about what you just said is that this is something that I learned, and Ellis Marsalis was my teacher for 3 years, and so
Yeah.
I we sat together in a room together a lot. He coached our ensembles, but I also would go to watch him play live all the time. And he played live every weekend. So I'd go hear him once. And so, but one of the things that I got most from him, and he never told us this in words, but it was that he played for the music. He didn't play for there was no ego there.
Right.
Like it was his whole personality and the way that he treated his band members, and it was about the music. It
Yeah.
was about just exactly like you said. And it taught me, I walked away from New Orleans, not that I didn't have an ego to deal with. I wasn't as nearly as humble as Ellis, because he was obviously a lot older and wiser than I was at the time. I mean, well, yeah, old completely, but he just set such a good example of an artist who really cared about the music and they cared about the audience. He cared about the band. He cared about us, and it gave me an example of how I want to be as a musician, as an artist, as a teacher. It really having those mentors is so key. I want to talk that the Brady Bunch was such an incredibly important part of my child. I mean, I saw every Brady Bunch episode. I don't know how many times.
Right. And I was
Okay,
not on the TV show. I did the tour in the 90s. Yeah.
you did
Yeah.
right, right, right.
Right.
But
Just to be
so
clear.
no, no. So
Yeah.
the real live Brady Bunch, that's what the
Right.
show was called.
Yep.
And I've only found a few episodes on YouTube. Now I
Yes.
lived in YouTube in the early 90s, right? I
91.
was
We opened in September of 91. Yeah.
I could kick myself. I mean, I was in New York from 92 to 2002 and I didn't know about it. I didn't come see it. And I love what I'm seeing. It's what a fun show. What an
It
awesome
was really
show.
fun. I call it like pre-YouTube theater because
Mm-hmm.
YouTube is where we share things, like somebody sends something you share, but we didn't have that in the 90s. So when you perform something live on stage that was on TV, I mean, the whole thing was that the music was the same, the lines were the same. We were just sort of like these slightly heightened versions. We were just doing the show as is, and that's what got the laughs. The other thing I've been doing during the pandemic is I got a new turntable too. So I feel like I've been listening to vinyl like crazy
Mm.
and it's bringing me so much joy.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
I was just
Vinyl.
listening to Fats Waller. Oh my God. These
Oh my God. See, you love good
compilation album is
music.
super collective. Like he plays these beautiful, the clothesline ballet. Like what? It's the most beautiful. I don't know if you ever played it, but oh my God.
I
If
have
I was
not.
It makes me feel like I want to play the piano better. I don't know if I'll ever get there, but oh my God, these kind of classic 20 stride piano things that are just like, oh, and even the
Get the
slow.
music. Get the music and learn it. I mean, a
Tony
measure at a
Guerrero may
time.
have it. Tony's a big Fats Waller fan, and he actually has a pretty big collection of Fats Waller stuff. So maybe he does. We'll see.
I
We'll see.
bet. I
But I
bet.
also like figuring it out by ear too. But anyway, a little bit, but
Well,
don't
Fats Waller by ear is, do you know what? Do it.
make it
I mean,
happen.
your ear's only going to get better if you do it.
Well, that's true. I mean, I think it's got to be a combo platter because there's no way,
Right.
I'm not
It would
that,
take 7 years, yeah, to learn that
yeah,
thing by ear. Yeah.
exactly. I'm much more of a
Yeah.
like a, hey, when can it happen? Hey,
Where do you come up with creative ideas? How do they come to? Because I know with different artists, some people get ideas in the shower. Some people get ideas when they're actually working. Where do they come for you? Where do the flashes of inspiration come, and how do you capture them? How do you get them down somewhere where they
it's
can be
different all the
dealt
time,
with?
but I feel like, I have a piano and so lately I feel like I've been, especially during the pandemic, I bought a piano. I was actually on tour with Dancing with the Stars this time last year. Actually, my part of the tour was I had like a 2 week break in the beginning of March and I was supposed to go back like
Mm.
March 20th. And when we were on tour, we were in Appleton, Wisconsin. We had like just played Radio City, like all these great places. And there was a great piano backstage, and it was snowing in Wisconsin. So I just sat there at the piano all day. It was this beautiful sounding piano. It was Boston, and I found it
Mm.
on eBay. So I bought one because I had an older Kimball, like similar to what I grew up with, which I love. But it's just so nice to have a real piano, like with great tone. And I thought, you know what,
It's
I got right.
so nice.
So I was like, you know what? I'm singing. I need a singer's piano. Like I need, So I've been playing this Boston piano since I've been home, and I'm just like, oh my God, I feel so lucky to own this instrument. Oh my God.
Oh, it's like a
So
warm
yes, I
blanket,
do
a
a
real
little bit
piano.
more. Yeah. But it's funny. I don't know if you know this, but for 4 years I played. I mean, right before Dancing with the Stars, I guess from like 2014 to 2000, no, 2015 to 2019, I played for the Elks in Pasadena. I played the piano for them. I joined the
Wow.
Elks because we had friends that were members, and the drinks are cheap and the food is cheap. And we walked in and they're like, young people. I'm like, I'm in my 50s. I'm like, young people. Okay. So, but when we were initiated, there was this 88-year-old woman playing the piano, and there's a lot of processional. It's very old Americana. Um, and she was improvising some of the music, and some of so there were only a couple songs that she actually had to play, and then she was playing like sort of this professional processional music. So
Mm.
she didn't show up the next time I was there for we had other friends who were being initiated, and I was like, we have to have music. I'll play. And so I volunteered, and then like of course 4 years later I'm still there, and
You got the
I
gig.
because yeah, but it was such an interesting opportunity for me because it allowed me to play the piano every week for with an audience, but it wasn't about me.
Mm-hmm.
It was like
Mm-hmm.
being of service, but also I got to kind of sneak in some stuff I was learning. So sometimes I would play songs that they wouldn't necessarily know, but if they knew what I was playing, so I would play like the end of Hey Jude. That usually ended the meeting.
And
Or like,
what do you like to play piano wise? What are your go-to
well,
styles and songs and
if I was better, I mean, I love Dave Brubeck's Take Five. I can only do one part. I cannot do both hands. So I will sing with that. But and then I don't know. I just like something bright. But I also like I've been playing some stuff on Instagram. I kind of have no business posting, but whatever.
I think you do have business posting.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But I feel like I'm sort of right now. I'm in the sort of soundtrack. Like I'm imagining the world that like with all these changes, and I'm just kind of there's the music's getting a little dark, but it's interesting. It's
Uh,
short, so it's not a hostage situation. I'm just saying. I'm not. It's
yeah.
not a concert. But anyway, so I don't know if that answered your question, but yeah. But and then the other idea is like sometimes it's with other people because I've
Mm.
written for other people, and certainly being in a two-person uh, lounge act for years, the Lampshades. Like I have always had ideas about how one person can support the other in a joke or in a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times we do we do mashups because my singing partner on the Lampshade, Scott, he can't do harmony. He's tone deaf.
He can't.
So, but we can do two
That's
songs at the
awesome.
we do Mandy and Brandy at the same time.
Oh
We
my
do.
God.
There's a few things we can do. It's so weird, but it's like it works. Like our weakness becomes our strength.
When
We
this
can
whole
still
thing is
get
over,
support.
I need to come see the Lampshades. I've watched some of those performances on YouTube. It is
Right.
absolutely hysterical and like it's 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 amazing. And it's you doing a lot of the things that you're so good at. I mean, you've got the singing, you're dancing, you're out of your mind, and you guys are this like it's like the lounge act that's in the North Dakota Holiday Inn for the 3 a.m. set.
We're
That's
like
what it is.
we're definitely like trapped in an act. We somehow relate to real time, but we're basically just trapped in an act. And we're there, you
Oh
kind
my
of find
God.
out our lack of a relationship through the whole, one's in love with the other. You find out that it's like a very, yeah, it's kind of like you learn who we are by what we don't say. And of course, learning a lot from working with Jane, I get some ideas, or we'll do something, and then I'll get an idea to sort of do something that's kind of like just even physically on stage behind her. And like I don't always tell her before. Like at first she was like, "What the hell are you doing?" And now she like trusts that whatever I'm doing is actually supporting her. Because I do have a fear of being on too long, or again like uh, not finding another idea in something that clearly there's something available to us as audience members. Like
Hmm.
there could be two things going on at the same time that are interesting.
What of all the things that you do, which is the most kind of, I guess, creatively satisfying for you? What do you enjoy doing as an artist the most, if
It's
there
hard
is
to pick
something?
one, but I will say like doing concerts with Jane and the band feels like it really it speaks to kind of my whole self because it's so real. Like we got to do 2 weeks at the Carlisle, and I felt like it was such a dream setup because everyone's right on top of you, and it's such a small room and you can't fake it. And I remember I got a vocal injury I bruised my vocal cord, and I was freaking out because I'm never like the injured party. I'm like, I'm always the trooper. Like I'll go on with 3 broken legs. And I continued. I had to get help, but I was like, it was just an interesting thing where I was like, oh wow, as an artist, like we really have to protect ourselves. Like I can't, like we were doing press that day, like way too much press in a
Mm.
couple days and singing. I'm like, oh, note to self, can't do that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Can't do this with this show. So kind of learning my limits, but understanding that like there's a gift in it.
Kate, for someone who is in a period of their life right now where they want to be doing more of the things that you have done and are doing in those kind of more formative years, or just wanting to get more into the professional life, what would you say to someone who really, really wants this?
Um, the first thing I'm going to say is that it's not a punishment to work a few jobs to follow your dream. It's not a punishment.
Mm.
Doesn't mean you're not good. Doesn't mean you're not on the right path. Doesn't mean,
Mm-hmm.
because I was still waiting tables during the first season of The Office. I didn't know if
I
we were going
heard
to get
that.
picked up. So
Yeah.
and I had, when I got Second City, I was like, I quit. And then I like realized what I was making. I'm like, I ended up having to get another restaurant job like a few months later, whatever.
Yeah.
So that, and also I will say, be careful of, you have to protect your decisions and your dreams and desires. You have to protect your art. And what I mean
Mm.
by that is that you may have an overly concerned parent, or a critical parent who doesn't get it, or critical friends who don't get it. And I'm telling you, um, of course, you still have them in your life, but maybe you don't pick up the phone before you're going to audition for something that you're very vulnerable for and that you need to keep all your attention on. Or
Yeah.
you don't talk to them right before the show that is a big deal for you. You don't want anything to take down your strength, your inner strength. And the critic to me is that's been my biggest weakness. So
Mm.
that's so for if you feel like there's criticism coming from other people or judgment or people like you can't do who do you think you are, whatever that is, like just be cautious around them, especially at certain times when they're high, it's things that are high stakes for you. Just really protect
Mm.
your dream.
What a great piece of wisdom there. If you know inside of yourself that you want this and it is a dream, and it to go to any lengths to be true to that is so huge. It's enormous. It's
Yeah, and it's
enormous.
and it's not always pretty. I mean, I remember having to sleep on couches for months in New York when I was working off Broadway because we weren't getting paid very well, and it was like it was a number of things that came up, but I thought, it was so humbling, but at the same time, I felt like this is the artist's journey. So I feel like whatever you can do to make yourself stronger, whether it's like alternative or if it's a therapist or whatever, it's 12-step program, if you feel like you're having an addiction thing and it's taking you down, like just when we're performing and we're doing our art, like you can't blame anybody else for, you could, but it's kind of stupid. I mean, as long as you know that you've done everything you can to be where you want to be, I mean, the fate has a lot to do with it. The
Mm-hmm.
universe has a lot to do with it.
Yep.
Um, I know sometimes, like for my family, like when they first started watching The Office, they're like, I watched the whole thing and you barely talked. You said one word. There's that, or like, who do you think you are? It's like you can't win. But at the same, and I
Yeah.
understand that. Like, I totally understand it. But I tried to explain to them, like, no, no, this is a good thing. This is a really good thing.
Really
And
good thing.
and also, as an actor, first getting a part that you don't know if it's gonna grow or if you're gonna get fired, if you're whatever, or Meredith's gonna get transferred, or maybe she got hit by the car and she died. Who knew?
Mm-hmm.
But
You don't
just
know.
having the sense that like every time you get a script, like you don't have to count the lines. You don't have to get into that standing up for yourself thing. It's like you can have a sense of trust that like if there's something that's feeding you creatively, even if it's small, there's a gift in that. If you can, I
Mm,
mean, obviously, different times in our lives, there's times where like, I can't do this anymore. But if you can find it in yourself to like find some magic in something, even if it is small and it does feed you, like just it's enough.
wonderful advice. Wonderful advice. And I will say that shortly after meeting you guys, I binged The Office. I started watching it and I got so freaking hooked on that show. It's one of my favorite shows of all time now, and I loved your character. What
Thank you so
was it
much.
times? It's just what a fun. I mean, everything about that show was brilliant. Everything, unbelievable. I mean, you must have had the
We had a
greatest
bla-
time.
we had a blast. I mean, we really did. It was that's why I was like, I don't if I don't talk for weeks, like I don't care because it's worth it when I do. And also, like look what I'm a part of and also just the sense of like a character can have presence without words. I mean, that's another thing too and like and trusting that that's I had more presence than I thought. Like it's just interesting. Like you can get a laugh with a look. You don't need to be talking all the time. And sometimes less really is more.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Thank you so
Thank you
much for
so much
talking to us today. It's great to connect with you again
too.
and
Oh
get
my
to
gosh.
learn
Oh
more
my
about
goodness.
you.
Oh my God. I hope you got all your questions. And sorry, I was so chatty, but I just want to thank you.
No,
Thank you for being dedicated and reminding me that what that this is it's a marathon, not a sprint, and it's a journey. Like even when you think you've landed on a place, like you may have like another road to take that you weren't expecting, and you just reminded me of that. And like what a gift! Like
yeah, oh,
all this is,
yeah.
and you're so talented. I'm so glad we got to work together.
Thank you so much. It was so good to see you
Thanks, David. Anytime,
and hear
seriously.
every.
All
Oh,
right, take care.
awesome, awesome, awesome.
Thanks so much, David. Take care.
Bye. You can see why I wanted to talk to her. She's just awesome. She's a just wonderfully talented, inspiring, funny, soulful human being. Mm. Great. Really love her. Thank you, Kate, for doing that. Don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the bell icon and all that jazz, and leave comments because I want to hear from you. We got a lot more coming. Have a musical day.